Hello, this is the Extraordinary Rayman because my opinion is just that interesting. Star Trek is a funny little movie for me. I was never much of a Star Trek fan, let alone a Trekkie. It just never interested me. I was more of a big guy and rusty, Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles kind of a kid. But when things began surfacing about the new Star Trek film, I was genuinely interested in it, especially since J.J. Abrams, the director, claimed he was not a Trekkie. That's one of the movie's biggest strengths, is that it's not made just for fans. Now, that does have some issues when it comes to fans actually liking the movie, but let's be honest, you can never truly please a fanboy. Anyway, after seeing it for the first time, I was floored by the film. I absolutely loved it. I loved the scope, the action, the effects, and the characters. I even put it on my list of quote unquote perfect movies alongside the now Toy Story trilogy, back then we only had two, the original Star Warses, and The Mask of Zorro. However, after watching it recently, some things have come to surface. Don't misunderstand me. It's still a high quality movie. It just has some serious tears in its fabric. The Star Trek movie is a rather fascinating creation, to say the least. As the film goes on, we learn that this is a very different world than the one the original Star Trek took place in. Things like Kirk's father dying and Spock and Kirk being at each other's throats all of the time will no doubt surprise fans and non-fans alike. I speak as one of the latter. The story is a mishmash of both being an origin story and, well, not being an origin story, if you can understand that. Origin stories can kind of be a fickle thing. On the bright side, we want to see Peter Parker become Spider-Man. We want to see him get bit by a spider and all that jazz. And people not familiar with these characters, all those uncool, nerdy, pathetic people, they need to know what in the world is going on. But on the flip side, we also want to see the characters we came here to see. We came here to see Batman, Spider-Man, Hulk, Iron Man, Punisher, Daredevil, Fantastic Four. No, wait. No, not the Fantastic Four. Anyway, Star Trek falls into a weird little niche when it comes to this. While the film easily introduces us to the movie's main characters fast, and then allows their interactions to express themselves, these are not the real characters from the original series, or at least as far as I can gather. Before I go on, let me just say, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen this movie, or if you even care, skip ahead a couple minutes. Gone? Alright then. Once future Spock meets up with Kirk on the ice planet, he tells him that he needs to take control of the ship by showing that past Spock, or present Spock, Zachary Quinto Spock, is emotionally compromised by the mission and therefore unfit to continue as acting captain. That, coupled with the movie's ending Spock on Spock conversation, makes something slightly off-putting come to head. Future Spock is basically forcing these people back to the way they were in his time. As Kirk said after Future Spock showed him the future via the mind meld, quote, "Going back in time, you changed all our lives." While Kirk may be the best man for the job from the timeline that Future Spock is from, in this timeline, while he is highly capable, Kirk is egotistical and a troublemaker. While his intentions are good, it's hard to believe that anyone could willingly follow his orders, or that anyone would place him in a high place of command. And that is really the biggest issue with this film as a whole. Contrivance. Kirk is informed that, in the future, a supernova ends up destroying Romulus, and the Federation is unsuccessful in using the red matter in time to stop the supernova. It's used too late, and ends up sucking the Romulus ship and the time traveler into it, sending them back in time. Now, they are sent 25 years apart, but that could be shrugged off as simply being, well, this is time travel and it doesn't have to make sense. However, the Romulan leader tells Kirk that they have in fact been waiting for her, the time traveler. Understandable, but how and where they knew where to look is made unclear. These contrivances extend to the fact that Kirk even finds the time travel to begin with. What are the odds that he is banished from the Enterprise to this ice planet? And that's the phrase that keeps coming to mind. What are the odds? Now, one aspect of the film that does have the potential to be contrived, but really isn't all that bad, is the villains. The Romulans' whole deal is that they are so angry that Spock was unsuccessful in saving their planet, on accident, mind you, that they are planning on destroying all the planets in the Space Federation. It is worth pointing out that this is a stupid plan. Not in the realm of storytelling, but more from the perspective of the villains themselves. What egotistical bastards must these guys be to do something like this? To add to the defense of this, these men, or aliens, obviously have more than a few screws loose, especially their leader, Nero. And it's that level of insane planning and plotting that leads to one of the movie's major strengths. Its scale. This movie is put on a grand scale, especially on a galactic level. We have villains who want to create black holes, we have skydivers jumping from thousands of feet to stop drills from digging to the center of planets, and some Deus Ex Machina matter, I only kid because I love, that is capable of creating black holes, that is capable of destroying planets. All of these big ideas and big thrills are handled exceptionally well, especially when you consider the fact that it's all based on some very old science fiction conventions, which sometimes have the danger of becoming contrived, generic, or just plain out of date. Lines as simple as telling the characters that the Romulans' drill is disrupting communications and their ability to beam people up, or whatever they call it, may not be the most detailed descriptions ever, but it's a reason for things, darn it, and I can really appreciate that. Of course, we can't talk about a science fiction movie without talking about the visuals. The visuals in this movie are incredible. In space, there's a sort of lens glare effect, and a uses of the shaky cam. While these two pieces don't always look good indoors and on the ground, especially in the ship's control deck, where every inch seems to give off lens glare, giving the space shots this sort of visual styling makes something we have seen so many times before, that being spaceships in space, and gives it a very unique look. The film also boasts some pretty impressive effects. While the level of real-looking stuff in this movie is pretty on par with what we've seen in the upper echelon of good special effects, it's what they do that's so impressive. Shots like the grand scale of the drill as Zulu and Kirk fight atop it for the fate of the Vulcans, to shots where the camera pans out of the control deck and pulls back into space, all serve to bring you in and keep your attention. While the story, as stated before, has a tendency for some serious contrivances, the characters that populate this movie are all enjoyable and very entertaining. Now, movie characters can fall into a couple of categories, primarily two, in my opinion, when it comes to depth and complexity. You have characters like Jack Nicholson's character in The Departed, who is an excellent character because of the film's superb script and from Jack Nicholson's amazing performance, which personally is my favorite performance in any film ever. Then you have characters like the ones featured in Inception. Aside from DiCaprio's character, Ellen Page's character, and Cillian Murphy's character, the other characters aren't given that much depth, and that's where the actors themselves have to start pulling their own weight. And it's just as effective. This movie's characters fall in both categories. Chris Pine, who plays Spike, has done something pretty special in this movie. His performance, from his facial expressions, his inflections, to the way he sits in the captain's chair, are all homages to the original Captain Kirk, and not just a William Shatner impersonation. From Bones' angry fettering to Scotty's snarkiness, there are some genuine personalities behind these people. One of the characters who I didn't feel any of this coming from was Uhura, played by Zoe Saldana, who to me kind of just felt like the token girl. Star Trek is one fun film. It's filled with enough character, action, pretty things to look at, and a story that we can be content with. While the film suffers from some annoying plot contrivances and some characters that are more mouthpieces than fully fleshed out people, all of it fits very well into place. This film does not go boldly where no film has gone before, and it does not reach the galaxy far, far away. But it looks cool, it moves fast, and it's way fun. Star Trek gets itself a B. And that's not an insult. It's a good thing. This is the Extraordinary Rayman signing off. I will see you next time.